Hi folks, it's John Nizman from lastchanceautorestore.com. I'd like to share with you another update. This is the 1969 Ford Mustang Convertible. In our last video, it's quite different than what it looks like now. If you recall in our last video, we had all of the front suspension and steering components were still on the vehicle. We had just removed the fenders and we were preparing the car to have it media blasted or sandblasted. And we mentioned in the previous video that I thought we had some corrosion in the tunnel areas and a couple other sections, and I didn't think that some of the patchwork that was done previously was done thoroughly, and there's some black undercoating and stuff which I'll share with you. So there's a reason, there's a method to our madness. The reason why, especially on the Mustangs, because we did quite a bit of block sanding. Everything was in primer when we bought this abandoned project for our client. The person that we bought the vehicle from had a 6-cylinder engine in it, which we're going to convert to an 8-cylinder. But they had mentioned that they had done quite a bit of extensive work to it, and that everything in the front clip was done and done properly. But we noticed some leaks, and bushings were worn, and the control arms were worn out, the steering box was leaking, so there's a long list of things that just weren't correct. And then as we look closer at some typical rusted areas, there was a lot of body filler and some fiberglass and a lot of black tar-like substance. So we have to make sure that we do this correctly, so that's why we prepared the vehicle and then rolled it out, and we've media blasted or sand blasted the complete front section of this 69 Mustang Convertible. So we're really happy and pleasantly surprised with the amount of structural strength there is, because normally or typically on these Mustangs, the cowl area and the ventilation area down below this front part of the cowl between this and the dashboard typically rots out. This one's in exceptional condition. The firewall and all of the seams where you have 3 different sheets of steel meeting along this top rail, it's in very good shape, as is the firewall. You'll notice the plate on the side where the hinge gets attached, it's in nice shape. Same thing on this side. It appears that someone's replaced it at one time and there's been some repairs done. There is a substantial amount of body filler in this area. The camera can probably pick it up. You've got some welding that's been done, and instead of grinding it smooth and finishing this properly, they've just left it all kind of chunky, and you see there's a pinhole here which is rust through. So we're going to make sure that we grind this properly, we weld that hole shut, and that it's done correctly. We've gone ahead in this area. You can see this is now a new patch. You can see the difference in color between the normal factory steel here in front and behind, and then the shinier steel. So this was all corroded and rotted through. Most of it's hidden underneath where the fender goes, but it's still a structural concern, and this had a lot of fiberglass and tar-like substance. So we removed all of that. We cut out the rusted out steel, we welded in new steel, and then that'll be part of our refinishing. More importantly, in the front here, and the camera, I'm sure, or hope will pick it up here, if my flashlight will come on. I think the camera can pick it up. So we removed all of there's a plate that comes here, this tunnel plate, and it just bolts in from the factory. So we removed that to get better access, and then we removed all of the suspension. So all the steering and suspension components are removed, and it's good that we did that because not only does it expose what's hidden down here, and this is another common area where it rusts out, it also exposed, there was a really big hole here, and it was quite barbaric. Someone had used acetylene torches, and from the back side of the engine bay, they torched quite a big hole in here, and it was all jagged, and that was to do some type of work in its day, I'm assuming with the upper control arm. But they left a big hole there, so we're going to, and you can see this is part of the new patch that's in. We cut out the rough part, we've welded a piece in, and then we'll be grinding that smooth. As we come this way, from the top looking down, hopefully the camera can pick it up. In this rail, you can see where it's all rotted through. I can literally put my fingers through there. It's a very common area on the Mustangs. It's probably one of the biggest areas that's neglected. So you can see through here, I can literally, on this part of the plate, I can stick my fingers through. It's all corroded and rotted away through here. And this bottom plate, which is twice the thickness of normal metal, and you can see it's rotted through also. So there was a substantial amount of tar and grease and a bunch of road residue that was piled up in here, and then everything else was painted and brushed on undercoating. So we removed all of that because my gut was telling me there was going to be some corrosion in here, and thank goodness we did, because this is going to be structural strength, and without that, over time there'll be some flexing. So we're going to end up, we'll be cutting this bottom section out and this back part of the tunnel, and we'll make new pieces and weld them in there, and then we'll finish sandblasting this area before we apply a two-part epoxy to seal the steel. I don't think the camera should be able to pick it up here. This inner well, you can see here there's some pinholes. So there's a lot of rust, and this is an original panel, and I think the camera can probably pick that up if it moves back and forth. If my flashlight worked, I'd be able to shine it from in behind, but typically it's very common for these front sections to rust through. There's a lot of corrosion in here, and there's just a bunch of body filler that they had plugged over top of this. So that's another section that we'll end up cutting out and we'll weld new steel in. But along the front, if we look along the rad support area, it's all very strong. This top rail is very nice condition. And when you come around this side, a couple of nice things that we like to see. We've got the original stamping of the serial number. It's on the passenger side. This being a 69, they actually stamped it on both sides, and we have them both. And it's all been sandblasted nicely. And then in here you can see we've already put the new piece in. So this is the passenger side. In here they had that big barbaric hole again, so we've cut it out, we've welded a new piece, and then this is all rotted away. So we've cut that out, we're ready to make a new piece, and then we've cut out the rotted along this bottom plate because that support rail was completely rotten. So we've cut it out, and you can see we welded new pieces in there. So once we have these other pieces welded in, we'll grind all that smooth, and we'll refinish it, and there'll be no evidence that we've even been in there. But it's an important step, especially on these Mustangs. This being a convertible, it wants to flex more, so we have to make sure that we have the strength that we require. So it's just an important step in the restoration of this 1969 Ford Mustang convertible. So I'm John, and I thank you for watching from lastchanceautorestore.com.